Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to Primetime Poulton. I'm Mark Poulton, the Moral Compass. With me, best friend Sean Arrett from the Odd and Stuff Show. What's up, Sean? And we have special guest joining us tonight, Marco Lopez, here to talk about his new book, Blanco. What's up, Marco?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's great being back on.
So today's launch day. Any butterflies in your stomach?
Yeah. This was one of the most it was probably more nerve-wracking since technically this is a relaunch. So it was one of those like, man, if this doesn't work, then crowdfunding is definitely not for me.
So that's something I wanted to talk to you about. This is a relaunch. You had originally launched it, I guess, back in January on Indiegogo, and you decided to take it down. What were your what led to that decision?
Well, one, after discussing it with David towards the end of the first week, our main concerns were after the stuff that happened in the government that took basically social media by storm, and that's the only thing everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
So literally that's a little hard to fight, and basically like, look at us, look at our project pledge. Everyone's like, no, we don't care about comic books right now. So that was a little hard to deal with. Also, we had a discussion about the goal, and David felt, and I felt myself, that the goal was a little too high, and that it would be best just to set a goal to where we can get the book out. And not have to worry about, additional stuff. It's basically like we're doing this book, in a way for free, me and David, because this is our creation. So the goal that we have now is just to print the book, ship the book, to pay for the letterer, DC Hopkins, and so, that's basically, what this goal is covering. And then there's our additional stretch goal. If we meet our goal, our goal is 3,900. If we meet that, then we have our stretch goal of 5,900 for the 8-page backup story. But this time we decided, let's get the first one out. Let's just make it happen. If we can make this happen, then we can worry about, then future volumes, are possible. But let's get the first one out and not try to, be all, let's make money off of it out the gate. Let's just get it out there.
Right.
Now we're going to go into the campaign, but first, tell us a little about yourself. How did you, fall into comics? When did you first discover them?
I first discovered them in the 80s. What year, I don't know. I'll do like the Goldbergs, 1980 something. And I, like every kid in that, the group in the 80s, you had the licensed comic books like Transformers. Later on, the Ninja Turtle stuff, the Archie's, the regular Ninja Turtles books, and then the Archie's Ninja Turtles books. G.I. Joe licensed comics, things like that, Thundercats, all those things, every kid, even if you didn't know what a comic book was, if you bought a He-Man toy, you got a comic book. So you were reading comic books. I really started getting more into stuff like Marvel when I read an issue of Marvel Comics Presents. I don't remember what issue it was, but it was with Wild Child. And it was with Wolverine in a cabin with one of his many loves, which I forget right now. And it was basically Wild Child. Wild Child comes. I think it was like a 2-part story. And all I remember is Wild Child attacks her. I think probably kills her. Wolverine goes and hunts down Wild Child. It's been so long since I read that story. I did look it up like years ago just to see if that story was actually real. Something I made up in my head, and it was real. But that was my first thing where I was like, man, comic books are cooler than just, the comic books based on Transformers, G.I. Joe, and all that. Even though the G.I. Joe comic is a really great comic. Hey, Black Guts.
What's up, Black Guts? Thanks for joining us.
So, that led to my love of X-Men, which I think is a lot of people's obsessions in the 80s and 90s. It was the hottest comic book of back then. And then I didn't really get into DC Comics until maybe the early 90s when I was living in New York. Because before that, most DC Comics for me were like, it was inferior to the X-Men. You have to put a Batman book or a Superman book next to X-Men, you're like, that's garbage. I don't want that comic. Of course, like everybody, I read, Death of Superman and all that stuff. But I really got into DC Comics with like Impulse, Mark Waid and Humberto Ramos. And from there, of course, in the '90s, I mean, we're all image heads. That was the one of the greatest moments in comic book history. Some of the greatest comic books ever made. I followed those guys, all those studios, and I followed Rob from Extreme to Awesome. Reading all those awesome books from the Joe Mad and what's Jay Scott and Umberto, from what they did to Cliffhanger at Wildstorm, all that stuff. I was just the typical comic book fan, going every Wednesday or almost every Wednesday, getting books. Not thinking about trade paperbacks, thinking single issues were the only thing. Trade paperback. Why do I want that? I already bought the comic.
They were so rare back then in the '90s, and now if you go back, it's funny. Some are really, the ones that are out of print are super expensive, but then there's ones that you can pick up for, like I pick up a ton of the old Image trades, and they're real cheap, except for maybe like the original Youngblood one that was just like the original issues glued together.
Yeah. I'm amazed by some of the trades that, because back then, I wasn't getting into trades. It was just, I already bought the single issues. I don't want that. But then when you look back and you see some of the trades that were released, I was like, wow, there's more trades than I even knew that they put out. I guess even the Image guys thought, maybe there's something here with these trade paperback collections. I can only imagine maybe what those sold back then, during that era. But yeah, so, became a lifelong comic book fan. I started, still reading X-Men, but started, because of Image, getting into more creator-owned books, more Image comics, Pitt, Max, the second wave guys, the Cliffhanger stuff. I followed everything that Awesome Entertainment did. I cried a manly nerd tear when Awesome Entertainment passed. That was one of the worst. That was one of the worst moments for me, because I got everything they did.
That's up there with the death of Optimus Prime.
Right?
Think about that. If you were a kid at the theater and that happened, you cried. And then 20 years later, so less, Awesome died. It's like, man, that sucks.
I got everything they did. I still remember and I kept that Wizard for the longest time and then threw it away. And then I remember going online looking, the ad for it was the Jeff Loeb, Joe Mad co-created, but he didn't do the art. Blast. Yeah, with Ed McGuinness. And I was like, this is why I love Awesome Entertainment. They did Kaboom. So I'm like, oh, now they're doing something like Kaboom, but it's like their Mega Man. I was like, this is why I like Awesome. They do cool, fun comic books. They were other than Cliffhanger, it was Cliffhanger and Awesome Entertainment for me, But yeah, then, when they went away in the 2000s, one of the great sad moments, I still read creator-owned stuff. Still read X-Men. And then, my 20s, right after high school, was my attempt of trying to get into comic books and failing. Got yelled at by a comic book creator once. One who I approached, who to basically be like, oh, I love your work, blah, blah, blah. I was just wondering if maybe you might be able to look at, some writing I did and tell me what you think. And then he tore me to shreds. And that's when I was just like, well, thank God I went to art. I'll tell you off screen, because nowadays he doesn't even work in mainstream comics. He does kids graphic novels. So if I told you, you'd be like, who?
So did he tear you apart because you asked for advice, or did he tear you apart because he read your stuff and
I think it was because I think it was a little of both.
Yeah.
I think it was a little of both. He was like, okay, well, if you want your advice, I'm gonna give you some damn advice. I went to the High School of Art and Design in New York, so I could take a little bit of it. But when you're going from being an artist to being a writer, then you're kind of not used to, writing was a new thing for me. So, I took some of it, but some of it I was like, F this guy.
No, I remember the first time I asked an artist how to break into comics. I was a senior in high school, and he just looked at me and said, you don't want to be in comics. You need to go audition for 90210. And I was like, no, I'm serious. And he wouldn't give me any answers. And I was like, all right, I just have to figure this out myself, I guess.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then that's true. That's true, Splat Guts. So then, I had some attempts where I almost had made it with creator-owned books. C.B. Cebulski had a company, Fanboy Inc., where he was releasing a lot of he was releasing comic books from manga creators in Japan. He did a book called Sidekicks. that later got re-released by Oni Press. I had pitched him a project that I had with an artist who had a sort of like Chris Bacalo type style. It was a sci-fi like Blade Runner-esque book, and it was going to have an advertisement at one point in Wizard, and it was all exciting. But then 2000s was sort of like I think this is like the early to mid 2000s. That was sort of that era where they're like, post everything that happened in the 90s. Then like a lot of the indie companies started like crashing. So basically, he closed up that company, and then later on, of course, everyone knows he went to Marvel as their like talent scout at first. Then I almost made it with another book called Darwin and Bob that was at I don't remember what they were called back then, but now they're called Marcosia Press, and they don't even release books in Diamond anymore. They release books to like Amazon or something, like graphic novels. And I was doing this like this kid and his pet monster sidekick, and the whole first issue was drawn. Fantastic artist. Book looked great. Whole first issue. AP Comics. That was the publisher before they became Marcosia. Whole first issue was drawn. Artist ups and disappears for 30 days after drawing the first issue. So the publisher was like, what the hell? I was like, what the hell? Then the publisher basically was like, well, I guess we're not doing this book. And so that crashed and burned. The artist then came back around and was asking about, when we were going to sign contracts and all that. And I was like, well, it's not happening now. So that crashed and burned. That was a fun experience. The only thing I wish from that is I kept the files that I had on floppy disks. If I had kept those, because I still would have loved, those pages were great. And I still just would have loved to have, had them for just, the memories. Then after that, it was just on and off, kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll try to get into comic books. Maybe I won't. Going to conventions, thinking like, oh, if I put a pitch together for Marvel or DC, go talk at, to editors at conventions or try to, flag down Joe Quesada and be like, Joe. Then you realize that's futile. That's never going to happen.
I did that once.
You did?
But just to shake his hand. I was like, I love Sword of Azrael.
That Sword of Azrael was great. I love that book. And then it wasn't until like, it was a bunch of off and on, and then a bunch of periods where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything in comics. I'm just going to stick to trying to get into film and TV. And then it probably wasn't until I was living in California for a year, and a friend of mine, Brandon Easton, he introduced me to the Lineforge comics people, and I was at WonderCon. He's like, hey, come by the booth. I'll introduce you to them. So I went to the booth, introduced myself, had some samples of my work that I was looking to put out, like create our own stuff. And then like 3 months later, I talked to the one of the higher ups at Lineforge. I just sent a cold email because like, all right, I haven't heard anything since WonderCon. It was like more than 3 months later. It might have been like 4 or 5 when I was back in Florida. And so I just sent a cold message, and they responded, and he's like, oh yeah, show me, send me some of your work, and let's talk. And I sent some of it. He's like, all right, so like, we'd like you to, would you be interested in pitching it on these 2 projects? And it was basically like coming up with the whole pitch, because it was one of them was like, oh, pitch this spy book, James Bond ish type spy thing, with African American lead, and the other one was pitch this other book that's sort of like a Judge Dreddish with a female lead. And I pitched for both, and they rejected the spy one because I really didn't do the spy thing, because I was like, the James Bond thing is too cliche. Let's do something that's more like the 1980s, more like MacGyver and that's more like MacGyver and stuff like that. Like the Old Man on a Mission novels, like Mark Bolan and things like that. And then so they didn't like that one, but they liked the Judge Dreddish one. So worked on some stuff with them for that. Then worked on another book with them with Arnie Reyes Jr. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Surf Ninjas.
Yeah, Surf Ninjas. I don't care what anybody says. I still enjoy that.
That's my movie, man.
Sidekicks as well.
Yeah, Sidekicks, man. Freaking Chuck Norris and what's his name? I love that. We always quote the scene where they're in the bar in Sidekicks, and he's like, what's his name? I think is it Joe Piscopo? I don't remember who it is who plays the bad guy, but they're in the one. He's one of the daydream scenes, and they're in the bar, and I think it's like the Western, and he's like, milk. how about some cookies? So we always quote that in Sidekick. It's so silly.
I think you got the sidekicks confused. Sean's talking about a different one.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
With Ernie when he was a kid. It was a TV series.
I don't think I've seen that. I thought you were talking about the Chuck Norris movie, the one that was like Chuck Norris's Karate Kid.
I was like, I don't remember that.
I saw that Chuck Norris Sidekicks in the theater when I lived in New York on the military base.
I love that movie.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I basically did, worked on with that one Judge Dreddish project, the Ernie Reyes Jr. project. Then, they shifted gears to do the Catalyst Prime superhero universe. So those books got shelved. I then did a story for Zenoscope Entertainment for their anthology horror series. I did some other work that was kind of in comics, but not like, comic book stuff for stores for Lion Forge. And then it was kind of, okay, well, I guess, I'm not doing anything else in comic books, kind of like a deadish period, trying to get like, Dynamite and other publishers interested. Didn't go anywhere. I had my website back then that I was doing like short comic book stories on, throwing them up, paying artists. And then when the hurricanes happened in Puerto Rico, I was talking to Derek and Neil and some other people, and we started putting together Puerto Rico Strong. Took it to Lion Forge. They were interested in it, and then that, was the quickest thing. Time working with a team that we put something together. I think it was like 2 to 3 months, to put a like 92 page graphic novel, anthology to support Puerto Rico. That went on to be a success. Won the Eisner Award for that.
You won 2.
No, I won 1 Eisner Award.
Who won 2 then?
Wasn't me. I wish I won 2.
Was it Derek?
No, Derek only has 1 also.
Why does he tell me 2?
He might be messing with you. So then after that, I did the Luchaverse, where I worked with Cheeto Comics and Mass Republic, who has the license, and we worked with Real Life Luchadors. We did 5 one-shots that were collected into a trade. We wish there would have been more. There was plans to do, miniseries follow-ups and really delve into all this stuff and just create this very cool, superhero lucha universe, sci-fi, fantasy, horror type stuff. We plan to do a lot of great stuff, but unfortunately that didn't move past the trade collection, which had a great, one of my favorite things about that was the trade collection has a forward by Joe Keaton, and he compares the Luchaverse to like the early Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, Marvel superhero universe,
That's awesome.
And I was like, well, if I do nothing else in comics, I won an Eisner, and I got compared to, we got compared to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I was like, I'm done. I can end it in comics here. I end on a high note. But once you're in comic books, or once you want to get in comic books or love comic books, whether it's reading or as a creator, it's addicting and you'll never leave. Like really bad stuff would have to happen for you to want to leave comics. And then and now here I am, kickstarting, relaunching this graphic novel, 64-page black and white sword and sorcery, post-apocalyptic, anthropomorphic. I put in there, it's got everything but the kitchen sink. It's just my love letter to stuff like Secret of Nim. Brian thinks his name is Brian Jacks, Redwall. Conan. Pulp novels, pulp storytelling. And I thought the idea of doing 64-page graphic novels.
Love Leroy.
What's up, Leroy?
What's up, Leroy? But I thought the idea of doing 64-page graphic novels, which kind of like back in the day, you had the 150, 200-page pulp novels, which were easy reads. You could read them between, your busy life. And I thought it'd be great to do something like that with graphic novels, with something like this, very pulp, very fun. You can easily read it, reread it, but you don't have to like sit there and be like, oh, I don't think I have the time to read a 200-page graphic novel, Blanco, which is doing great right now, on its, we're not even at 24 hours, the end of the first 24 hours yet, and we're almost.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. We're almost at 20% of goal. 34 days to go, so I'm pretty positive we're going to meet at least the initial goal, if not the stretch goal.
Yeah, I think so. So I think the relaunch is going to work out for you. You're definitely doing better than the first time, because we launched. I think we launched here the day of launch for the first time around, right?
Yeah, I believe it was, and yeah, so this is going so much better. I'm super happy and excited. I can't wait until we hit goal. And I think people are going to really love this book and what we have to offer here.
So that's
the art's awesome.
Thank you, David Brame. He's incredible.
What are some of the other projects, if you know offhand, what David's worked on?
I do not. I should. I think it might be in his bio. If you go all the way to the bottom of the page, I should have memorized what his.
There we go.
Yeah, right there. He's done a lot of independent graphic novels. I know he's done some creator-owned stuff that was released through it's one of the indie publishers.
Action Lab, right? He's done some stuff for Action Lab.
Yeah, Action Lab. Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at some of this artwork.
Yeah. So it's the cover. That's the so these 5-page previews aren't the first 5 pages. I didn't want to, because the first 5 or 6 pages are going to be like crazy, brutal stuff, and I kind of want to leave that for like when you first get the graphic novel and you open it up and you're like, oh my god, I wanted that to be a surprise. So this is more like world building stuff, some cool action scenes. That scene is a flashback scene, where the narrator that you'll see around this campfire is telling the story of how the world came to be. The first page was the time of man, and then the time afterwards, and then there he is around the campfire telling these young kids the story of how their world that they know now came into existence.
Got a nice decapitation going on right here.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be that's just the tip of the iceberg. This book is gonna get crazy.
Yeah, that's good.
And Blanco is a very religious character because they live in a medieval-esque society where religious rule is, the rule of the land. And it's very like medieval, samurai-esque, society. There's like 5 kingdoms. And then there's the Middling Lands, which are the lands that are outside the 5 kingdoms. And then there's the outer zone, which is the remnants of the, the world of, man that existed before their world.
So let's go through some of the tiers. I'm not familiar with Kickstarter. Where can you find the?
This should be on the right.
There we go.
Yeah. They have this weird thing where they give you like a second bar, and I'm like, why would you guys do that? So we have the digital edition, $10. Originally, when we first launched it, I didn't have a digital edition, but this time because I'm not a huge fan of digital, and honestly, I get digital for convenience. I get digital, I have Netflix and all that, so it's pretty hypocritical of me. But I just like the idea. I like the idea of physical media.
I got myself in a little trouble recently, going off about how I hate digital, and then my past as the Evangeline webcomic.
Well, the problem with digital is, it's fine, but people have become too invested in it now. And so the idea is, I feel, is you kind of give up control. With physical media, you have control. You have that copy that you purchased. You don't have to worry down the line if they want to go ahead and re-edit it, because then you don't have to buy that re-edited version. You can buy the one that you liked, and then you don't have to worry about because so much stuff gets released now with film, TV, comic books. So if your book goes out of print, you still have your copy. You don't have to worry about it. I know digital is forever, but it's also I also don't want to sit in front of a tablet all day and read comic books. So we have the early bird graphic novel, the physical. It's $10.
This is nuts right here. What a deal that is. $10 for 64 pages of story. Incredible. Anyone in the chat right now, if you're listening, if you're watching this, you got to go back. $10, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's 25. I think there's 9 left. And And, so we have that. Then we have the regular tier, which is $15. So essentially we're giving you 33% off, $10, for the book. If you get the early bird, $15 is the physical one. If you go a little bit down, you'll see after that. So what I decided to do with the trading cards and the prints, I was like, I'm just going to add them into tiers. I'm not going to make them as stretch goals. I'm going to make this a little more easier on myself, fingers crossed. And so, our first one for $20, you get trading card number 2, which you'll see. We'll go and look at the trading cards and the prints after we go down the tiers. But you get trading card number 2 in the Blanco graphic novel for $20, Mm-hmm. And then you go further down and you get for $25, you get the Blanco graphic novel and the mini print. And then for another $25 tier is the Blanco graphic novel and trading card 1 and 2. And then for $35, you get the Blanco graphic novel mini print, trading card 1 and 2. And then the retailer copies. I mean, I don't know if any retailers are. It just seems like none of the retailers ever go for retailer copies.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And we're making it 50% off and free shipping for 5. I think it's 5 copy minimum. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody's going to go for it, but I threw it in there just in case.
Yeah, you never know. It's a great deal, so they're gonna save at least 50%, less than 50 or more than 50% at $9 a copy.
Yeah. So it's it's basically free shipping and US only. I just added recently because I had like UK. For shipping, I had like US, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Basically countries that I know have a lot of American comic book stores. But we just added European Union because we had some people asking about European Union.
So Kickstarter, are you going to Indiegogo afterwards?
Okay, so here's the plan in my head right now. Here's two options I'm looking at. So meet the goal, hopefully meet stretch goal, campaign ends, we're going to go Indiegogo in demand. My other plan is what I like to call the cocky plan. And that one is, if we hit our $3,900 goal before the campaign ends, like let's say we hit it 2 weeks in, right? We have 35 days, so that's like 5 weeks. But let's say we hit it 2 or 3 weeks in. So I'm like, okay, we've hit the goal. I'm going to launch the Indiegogo campaign, and it's going to play out for the remainder of the Kickstarter campaign. So if the Kickstarter campaign has 2 weeks left, the Indiegogo campaign will be exactly the same, and it'll be for a smaller goal, and it'll have 2 weeks left. And then that thing will go into the Indiegogo in demand. So I'm trying to figure out which one of those I want to do because I know some people who are like, oh, if he's going to go Indiegogo in demand, I'll just wait until the Indiegogo in demand, which is great. I just hopefully not too many people do that because if we don't meet goal, we ain't going to Indiegogo in demand. But then the other thing about the launching the campaign once we hit goal and making it run out to the remainder of the Kickstarter campaign is I just don't want people when they say, oh, now he's on Indiegogo, then cancel their Kickstarter pledges and then go to the Indiegogo. And I'm like, that's not helping. That's not helping anybody. But that's the two options I'm looking at. For the second volume, which will probably be out next year if we meet goal for this one. For the second volume, I'm probably going to do double launch. I'm probably going to get cocky and launch Kickstarter and Indiegogo at the same time. But for this one...
Doesn't Indiegogo let you, once your Kickstarter wraps up, you can pretty much just like go in demand instantly?
Yeah. So that's the initial thought that we're going to go with. But, if we hit that goal early, then, I'm going to get cocky and then launch the Indiegogo and, have it run for the length of the remainder of the Kickstarter, and then let that Indiegogo go into demand. I'm just going to be, I'm just going to say, F it, I want all your money. So what you're seeing, that's the Blanco 1 trading card. That's the first trading card. There will be information on the back, like the classic Marvel trading cards, power levels and all that stuff. That's the Blanco 2 trading card. That's his brother Kane. And then after that is the mini print. It's going to be the size of a comic book cover. So I think it's like 6.675 by 10.25. I think that's how the comic book cover sizes are. So that's going to be the mini print. And then After that is the preview pages, as you guys have seen, that beautiful cover by David. And that cover right there is kind of a preview of to what that opening 6 pages will be in the book, which and this is a promise, and not just because I love the idea of like brutal comics, like outlaw comics as they call them. It's going to be pretty like brutal, those 6 pages.
Yeah, I love it. This looks like it could take place in the same world that Viking Wolf, my book, takes place.
Yeah, I was thinking when I saw your previews for Viking Wolf, I was like, maybe in the future we do a Blanco Viking Wolf crossover, a one-shot.
Man, this is such a great deal, though, especially if you can get in on the early bird edition for $10, 64 pages. You can't beat it. I know some people prefer to wait for Indiegogo, but there might not be a $10 early bird there.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to say whether there will be or not be. Right. Please give me your money now, and I'll give you good comic books.
So when are you looking to have this fulfilled? Let me look at the date. September?
September 2021 is going to be when we will hopefully be shipping them out. We're pretty, confident that we can meet it, but, we're also going to be, updating, once the campaign closes, we're going to be updating as much as possible, letting people. One of the things I hate on Kickstarters and Indiegogos is when you pledge to stuff and then you're like, the campaign's over. Oh, thank you. And then like, you don't hear anything for like 3-4 months. And you're like, what? Is this book getting made? What's going on here? I understand life gets in the way, but it's also like, you got lots of money, put the book out.
September's not that far away. I mean, once this campaign's over, it's going to be like May, and then you're only 4 months away from getting your book. So not that long of a wait at all, especially the way time's flying during this pandemic. I feel like the last year has just flew by.
Yeah. And the good thing about this is we're printing this book in the States with a printer here in Florida.
Nice.
So we're going to be doing
that'll be a quick turnaround.
Yeah, they're a printer that Scout Comics uses and other indie publishers use. And so I've talked to them about, the printing, the printing of this book and costs and stuff like that. And I just found it, it's a little more than using, overseas, like China printer or South Korea. But, it's not so much more that I'm like, I make up for it in time and shipping costs that you would have to pay to print, from China. So I make up for it there. And so I was like, screw it. I mean, because I don't think, for this book to make goal, I think it would have to be something like, 150 people. So I'm probably only going to print like maybe like 500 copies, unless this thing like turns out wild. And then next thing I know, I've got like 400, things, people want to get the book. And I'm like, okay, maybe I might have to go with, China to print the book. But who knows, fingers crossed. But yeah, all the stuff, the trading cards, the mini prints, all that stuff is going to get printed here in the US. And the printers that are here in Florida, I should be remembering their name, but I forgot what the company is called. They're really good people. Like I said, they work with Scout and others. So excited to work with them to print this book and get it out there. And yeah, well, we should most definitely make September, but if we don't, I'm going to keep everybody updated. And, it's definitely coming out this year. It should definitely come out in September, but you don't want to say like 100% because, you never know what happens. The world could end tomorrow. And that's the thing about these crowdfunders. Like, I think everybody understands like shit happens, but like the main thing is at least keep the people that got you to your goal updated. Let them know what's going on and give reasonable timetables on when they can expect. Because man, there's some projects out there that are still like a year or two overdue, and you just sit there wondering like, man, no wonder everyone gets pissed.
Just got a backer, man.
Thank you, Eddie Winkler.
What's up,
Thank
Eddie?
you so much.
Very cool.
Follow Eddie Winkler.
Come on, Leroy.
Listen, look at that. Eddie Winkler, pledged to Kickstarter. Everybody else should too. I understand though. I know there's like, it's kind of like, back in the day when we were kids and teenagers, there's that Marvel DC fan base. Now there's that Kickstarter Indiegogo, fan base.
More importantly, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
There you go.
So, some people prefer the idea of like Indiegogo, because Indiegogo has a lot of great features. There's some that I wish, Kickstarter had, that I think is ridiculous. Thank you, Eddie. That I think is ridiculous that Kickstarter doesn't have. But Indiegogo also has the thing where they take your money, immediately. And Kickstarter has the thing where they're like, oh, we'll take your money if it reaches goal. They have their good side and their bad side. But yeah, if we make it here, we'll definitely be on Indiegogo, maybe even earlier.
No way.
So we're going to circle back to Blanco, but Marco, I want to ask you, how's your filmmaking career going? For those in the chat that don't know, Marco's dabbled in filmmaking, produced a couple films, wrote a couple films as well.
Wrote one. So I produced 2 last year, independent, low budget films that I was in California for. Wrote one, produced both of them, and then so those are going pretty good. Saw some footage from the rough cuts of the movies, like I think it was a month or 2 ago. So that was looking great. I think they're going to be done by spring, by April, maybe April or May. And then we've got, I can't say which 2 studios. I'll tell you guys, though, after, the show. Got a couple of big studios that are interested in looking at them. I'm heading to New York end of the month. That's where the big money is. If everyone was smart, they would just go produce adult films and, not care.
I tried. No contenders.
But, basically, I'm going to New York end of the month, and then I'm probably going to be working on a project in Tennessee for about a month. I'm going to New York, and then from New York to Tennessee. I'm going to New York, though, to work with a friend of mine who I worked at the California projects on, who's a DP and a director, and we're developing a couple of projects. We're actually kind of like midway in them that we're going to be shooting over the summer in New York. We have an investor that's interested. They're, low budget indie films. And so we're going to be, working on those over the summer along with the Tennessee project. So the summer schedule is going to be really packed with just basically like probably nothing but, working on films and then dealing with the Blanco, Kickstarter, getting that wrapped up to, get it out there. And then whatever other comic book stuff that I have in the pipeline. Have a script at a major studio that I'll tell you guys about, after this show is over. We'll see where that goes. And then I have a bunch of other stuff I've been doing for like, television animation that I can't say right now. That, it's in the pipeline that's looking good. So yeah, the film TV stuff is looking great. I'm hoping, maybe by the end of the year, early next year, I got a little, I don't know if I want to call it producing power, but a little something where I can go be like, hey, so there's this great graphic novel by Marco Poulton and Mike McMahon. It's called U.S. Assassin, and we should talk to Scott Adkins or what's his name that you mentioned the other day?
Sean Patrick Flannery. That's my new guy.
Yeah. So I was like, let's do a U.S. Assassin $5 million movie. Let's go Canon Films on this. Make it awesome. Yeah, see.
Sean Patrick Flannery doesn't like best friend Sean up in the corner.
No, it doesn't. It's not that he doesn't like me. He just says I was stupid or an idiot. He's like, you're an idiot. Or you're fucking stupid.
We met him at a con once, and Sean went to tried to take my picture with him, and he couldn't get my phone to work. And Sean Patrick Flannery was giving him a hard time.
Look at Sean. He's like,
No, but the funny thing was,
there's still
Norman
heat.
Reedus, yeah. Norman Reedus was right next to him, and this was the summer before Walking Dead. So it was like, it's funny to see that, and now he's like this giant star. And Sean Patrick, whatever, is several of those tiny rooms.
Norman. It's crazy because Sean Patrick Flannery, like when he came out the gate in the 90s, he did that Sarah Michelle Gellar romantic comedy thing, and that guy was kind of like the name. And even in Boondock Saints, he was
he was young Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
He was Powder too, right?
Yeah. Yes. He was great actor and all this stuff.
I wouldn't go that far.
Did you guys ever see Suicide Kings? I love that movie that he was in.
Yeah. I saw that.
Christopher Walken.
You know, and he had all this heat, and now like Norman Reedus just like eclipsed him. You know?
Yeah.
Norman Reedus.
Because all these
Sean put a curse on him at that con. He was like, "Oh, you're gonna call me stupid?"
Yeah.
They need to make another Boondock Saints.
Yeah, I love the first one. I really enjoyed the second one. Those were just like really, you know, freaking midnight classics. You know, movies that you watch late at night or on the weekend. You know, the type of movies we watched when we were younger. You get like pizza, soda, chips, Blockbuster for the weekend. 3 movies and you're good to go. Yeah, you know
I think I have Kickstarters from 2009 that I still haven't had fulfilled.
I think I've only had 2 Kickstarters that weren't fulfilled, and one was a digital, for a digital like novel, and I just wanted to support the writer, and I was like, oh, this sounds cool, you know, I'll just like to read it I'll just read it on the computer or tablet. I don't even think I had a tablet back then. And then the other one, Tennessee Whiskey.
Can you sing it?
Yeah, I have a PayPal account. Donate whatever you want, and we'll go verse by verse.
I just lost my train of thought because of that.
We're talking about unfulfilled Kickstarters.
Oh yeah, and then the other one was for a comic book that, that one, and I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. I think I just pledged that one because you know I knew the guy who was putting it out, and he was a cool dude, so I just wanted to help. There wasn't even that much money, but I think those are the only 2 I've ever had unfulfilled. I have seen some of the stuff that like from big name creators, you know, from small name creators to nobodies, where like it looks awesome, and then people pledge and they're huge successes. You know, where people are like, you know, some projects where like they come out of nowhere and they get $50,000, and you're thinking, man, like if I got $50,000, I'd at least put out a book.
The Moral Compass approves all movies starring Jason Priestley or Luke Perry. Facts. Luke Perry, man, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 8 Seconds, the bull riding movie. That was awesome. Jason Priestley did a movie, Calendar Girl. All great films. I approve all of them. So, Marco, before we get back to Blanco, you're a fan of 80s action films. What are some of your favorite kind of like hidden gem films, if you have any off the top of your head?
Man, like I might not remember. This is one of those moments where like if I'm not on the show, you know, I hit up with, you know, Mark with all the stuff. I'm like, hey man, did you see this is coming out on Blu-ray? And
that's what got me thinking. You always send me links. Like I think you sent me the martial law link.
Yeah,
so I bought that Blu-ray. That was a great Blu-ray collection. I don't Martial Law 2. I don't think is as good as the first one. The first one though with because
it has what's his name from
Karate Kid,
Steve McQueen's son. You know?
Chad McQueen.
Chad McQueen, and he's good, and you love it because it's such a comic booky film. You know, like, and I'm not saying that like back then people used to say that in the derogatory way, like this is a comic book, you know, this movie, but it very much is because like the opening is like, you know, they're outside the store, and you know the gunmen are holding the person captive, and the cops are out there, and the cops are sort of incompetent. And then comes in, you know, Martial Law, and that's his nickname, Martial Law, you know? And he walks in, and he's pretending to be the pizza guy. You know, you don't know the pizza guy is Martial Law. I mean, if you've seen the trailer before you watch the movie, of course you know he's Martial Law. But he's coming in as the pizza guy. He goes in there because, you know, they wanted a pizza, like all, you know, gunmen, when they're holding people hostage. They're like, I want pizza. And he goes in and delivers. And he goes in and delivers pizza, and then a side of ass kicking, you know?
That's a great That's a great tagline.
Wait, what was that?
We gotta write like an action.
He delivers pizza,
comedy starring a pizza guy. Yeah,
delivers pizza and a side of ass kicking.
Yeah. Another one, Snake Eater with Lorenzo Lamas. You sent me the link to that. I think recently.
The Lorenzo Lamas. He did like 3 movies, right? Those action films. Yeah.
Snake Eater.
Yeah, Snake Eater. Those I saw. I think it was Amazon Prime or is it Netflix in which I saw the first. It might have been back when I had cable TV. I think it might have been on No, it was on El Rey when El Rey still existed. Rest in peace. El Rey is no longer with us. That was the type of channel for like me, Mark, you, Sean, everybody who loves 80s, 90s films and all that stuff. But those Snake Eater films. That's a guy again. What I love about 80s and 90s is all these pulpy films. Especially a lot of the stuff like what's his name? Who was American Ninja? What's the actor's name?
Michael Dudikoff.
Michael Dudikoff did so much great stuff in the 80s. All these like awesome action films. And that's what I loved about the 80s and 90s because you had the theatrical action films, then you had the direct to VHS, and then if you were going to Blockbuster, your local mom and pop shop, you got those. You grabbed those films. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite, and this isn't. I don't know if I call it a hidden gem. But,
Leroy thinks all my books either have a dog or a wolf in it, and he might be true, but it's not intentional.
one of my favorite 80s films, and I'd say it's a cult classic, but maybe not a lot of people know about it unless you grew up in the 80s or 90s, is Best of the Best.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Best of the Best is an incredible film. Eric Roberts. They went on and did 4 films. Best of the Best 1 and 2 had Eric Roberts. And they were both theatrical, but Best of the Best 3 and 4 were I forgot the Asian actor. Philip Ree? I think Philip Ree is his name. He was in Best of the Best 1 and 2. He was the guy from South Korea. And he did the 3rd and 4th one which they took that territory where he just went on his own and they were just action films, him kicking ass in like some small Western town. And those were fantastic. And I loved about Best of the Best too. When I saw that trailer, I was living in Miami, Florida, and when I saw that trailer, I turned to my mom. I was like, I have to go see that movie. Best of the Best is awesome. I need to see Best of the Best too. She dropped me off at the theater. I went up to go buy my ticket, and they said, "Sorry, you're under 17. You can't go see a rated R movie." I went out to because my mother was waiting for me. She wanted to make sure that I got the ticket, and then I went in, and then she was going to go off and do some shopping and pick me up. I went to her. I was like, "They won't let me get the ticket." She opened that door, walked to that thing. She's like, "Why are you not selling my son a ticket? He's allowed to go see that movie." So they gave her the ticket. They're like, "Here you go, man." And then I went in. Yeah, I went in. I went in, got my popcorn, got my soda, sit down, and man.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that when they killed off Chris Penn in Part 2.
Yeah, Chris Penn, may he rest in peace. He was in a lot of good movies. And
one of my highlights of when I optioned a screenplay and I went out to Hollywood to hang out with the producer. He took me on a tour of Hollywood and he showed me where he did Blow with Chris Penn.
Nice.
I remember you telling me.
That's history.
What I loved about Best of the Best too was they had Philip Ree when he was fighting the big dude, which is, I forgot the actor's name, but he's been in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and a lot of like TV shows playing like villains, monsters. I think he was in Mortal Kombat, the TV show. When he's fighting him.
Oh, was it Brian Thompson?
Yeah, I think it's Brian Thompson. Yeah. When he's fighting him, he does that Liu Kang flip kick in the movie. And I remember one of the reasons I wanted to see that movie is because I was like, he's doing Liu Kang's move. And that's why I just love, like, Billy Blanks did so many awesome, like, direct-to-VHS action films.
Oh, yeah, he did a bunch with Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I used to watch, one of my favorite movies with Roddy Piper is, if you haven't seen it, you must see it, Hell Comes to Frogtown. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Oh, yeah. Man, I just love the 80s, 90s, straight to DVD or straight to video films.
They're
so great.
Blown away.
There's nothing like it anymore. I do see kind of some of it coming back. Michael Jai White remade the Van Damme film. It wasn't as good as Van Damme's film.
Death Warrant.
Sudden
Death.
Yeah, Sudden Death. And that was a huge hit on Netflix. It was like #1 for like a week on Netflix. And then I saw what's his name? He's a comic book creator. I forget his name, but he's also a director. And he directed one of the sniper films, one of the recent sniper films.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name though.
He's doing the erratic book at AWA, the publisher. He did Iron Fist.
Carrie Andrews?
Yeah, Carrie Andrews.
Oh shit.
Yeah. He's a director, and so he did one of the sniper films, and I loved it. They interviewed him, and they were talking about his comic books and his.
Give wrestling a chance, man.
But
it's like superheroes. It's guys in spandex.
But they were interviewing Andrews, and he was talking about how, like, you know, doing the sniper film was a lot of fun, and like these direct-to-DVD action films are becoming kind of like, you know, kind of like pulp novels. So these cool little, you know, films you watch, an hour and a half, you kill some time, and you know they're a lot of fun, and you really enjoy them. And so I see it making a little bit of a comeback. The type of films that we watched in the 80s and 90s we went to the movie shop to rent VHS.
Yeah, no. Scott Adkins has one out now that looks totally like a comic book. I forget what it's called. Max.
Oh, is it Max Cloud? Max Cloud. Yeah. He gets sucked in. He's from the video game. The girl gets sucked in.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks good. Scott Adkins has been doing a series. I think the director is Jesse Johnson, where he's been doing a series of films like with Jesse Johnson. Jesse Johnson directing, who's a great action director. He did that proof of concept Wonder Woman trailer that came out years ago before the first Wonder Woman film came out.
Yeah.
And it was set like during World War II, I believe. He's a great action director, and he's done a bunch of films with Scott Adkins that are really good. Yeah, a lot of direct-to-DVD action stuff is incredible nowadays. Sometimes better than the stuff we get in theaters.
Yeah, no, especially today where the choices are really limited in theaters.
Oh yeah.
Let's get back to Blanco before we alienate the chat even more. Marco, what is there anything else you'd like to tell people before we wrap this up?
This is going to be a wild, crazy, over-the-top, fun comic. There's a lot of heart in here. A lot of, you know, there's gonna be a lot of history you're gonna find out about this world and these characters. And it's just, you know, it's a good, you know, beginning, middle, and end story that leaves you elements open for the sequel. You know, like I said, it's a post-apocalyptic, sword and sorcery, anthropomorphic, you know, comic book. But it's outlaw comics. It's going to be wild, crazy, gory, you know. And, you know, at the end of this first volume, it pretty much sets up what the series will be from there on out. But the thing that I'm doing with this book is, you know, you're never kind of going to know what's going to happen next. Like the way this first volume ends, I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, shit. I mean, okay. And it's just, you know, if you love stuff like, you know, the Conan comic books, the Red Sonja comic books from Marvel, you know, that type of stuff, Crawl, you know, the eerie, creepy, a lot of the 70s, you know, horror comic books from Marvel and DC. If you love a lot of the stuff that Dynamite puts out, you know, the Vampirella, you know, Red Sonja, they put out stuff nowadays. The, you know, if you love, you know, just very, you know, if you love movies in the 80s, like Dragon Slayer and, you know, the Conan film, and, you know, if you love stuff like Hercules, Xena, it's just a wild and crazy ride. And it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great characters. And I don't think there's anything out there like it. You know, I could be wrong. Maybe somebody will come out and be like, well, my webcomic is just like this. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Exactly.
I had this idea first. It's like, relax, dude.
So I think when you read this, it's just going to be something that people are really going to enjoy. They're going to have a lot of fun. It's well worth your money. We're not trying to break your bank here. You know, we're sacrificing a lot just to get this out and make this possible. And we just want to put out good comic books in the world and give you something that when you give us your money and you finish reading it, you feel like, man, that was worth it. And it didn't take me 5 minutes to read. You know, it took me more than 5 minutes.
It sounds fantastic. It looks fantastic. I think the prices are great. I'm going to back this once we go off the air. If you don't mind, I'd like to. I have a little book of my own. I'd like to.
Heck yeah, man!
Talk about.
Love your stuff. You know that.
Let me share the screen. So we got 1 week left for Sea Dog and Codename Killswitch Book 2. We're at $15,172. We just announced our next stretch goal at $23,000. Everyone gets an ash can of my next project, Viking Wolf. It's going to be 8-page ash can preview. All the artwork for the book's actually done. It's being colored right now by friend of the show, Dexter Weeks.
Shout out,
Dex is kicking ass right now. Can't wait to his first batch of pages to come in.
Awesome.
But Sea Dog, it's such a fun book. If you're a fan of the '90s, or if you're a fan of just fun comics, this book's for you. The team of Clint Holinsky and Andrew Dahlhaus are just amazing. The artwork on this book, I can't say enough nice things about it. It just, I don't know, just seeing this, it looks like Saturday morning cartoons, something you would watch after X-Men, right between X-Men and Power Rangers during that Fox Kids block.
Heck yeah.
Just fun stuff. This story picks up right after the events of Book 1. We got Sea Dog teaming up with Codename Killswitch to find Sea Dog's master, Peter, because Sea Dog is a real dog. He's a puppy who his master found the enchanted anchor medallion, placed it around his dog's neck because he thought it'd make a cool collar, and he turns into Sea Dog. That's as far as we went into his origin in Book 1. In Book 2, we explore it more, and there's other animals like him out there. We introduce a new group, the Animalers, and they're all animals with their own medallions. There's a lot of world building. Besides the Animalers, new villains, we explore Stormborn's homeworld of Tharoon, which his brother Dragonborn has just taken the throne by force. So there's a civil war going on there. Just fun stuff. And of course, we start off, they're trying to track down information on where Peter is being held. So the girls, Rebel and Neon, they have to go undercover. And where are they going to go undercover? But a superhero strip club. So here are the ladies on page 1 in the middle of undress.
Mark knows what the fans want.
You got to give the people what they want, Marco. I know my audience.
What was it Roger Corman said? When if the movie gets boring, throw in some tits and ass.
Yeah, there you go. So here's some black and white artwork from the undercover strip club scene. Some of these characters may look familiar, but it's totally coincidence. But yeah, the artwork's fantastic. I can't say enough nice things about Andrew Dahlhaus' colors. He just really brings this to life. I think Clint is maybe one of the most underrated artists out there today. His line work is just incredible.
Yeah, it looks great. I also love the origin of Sea Dog, and when you were talking about the necklace and the Animalers, I was like, that's so Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, the Animalers need their own show.
I mean, it's just so awesome. I love everything about this book because it just speaks to all that stuff that we loved. And also it reminds me of like a lot of the shows that was on. Remember USA had their own Saturday morning. It was Savage Dragon, Wildcats, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all that type of stuff. Like this would have been great back then as well.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through the tiers real quick. Our featured tier is the Triple Threat. You get both covers to Book 2, Clint's cover, and we have a variant cover by Dan Fraga. Shout out to Dan Fraga, who was recently in the hospital with kidney stones. Hope you're feeling better, Dan. But Dan's doing a variant for us as well. He provided us with this layout. It's going to be Sea Dog in his rap alter ego, Sea Dog CDAWG, spray painting a mural of Codename Killswitch on the wall behind him.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you get both of them, and you get the Book 1 reprint featuring the line art variant by John Malin. For $25, you can either get Clint's cover, Dan's cover, or the Book 1 reprint by John with the John Malin cover. $50 gets you both Book 2 covers. For $125, you get the fan pack, and that's all. You get the 2 Book 2 covers, the Book 1 reprint, and a sketch from Clint Holinsky. And if you had signed up for our mailing list, you could have got the fan pack for $100, and it's actually one of our most popular tiers. So, just food for thought, Mario. When you do that Indiegogo, if you ever start a mailing list for it, give them some sort of incentive to sign up.
Yeah.
Saving money is always a good perk. And then $200 our high end tier, the Babe box. I'm gonna.
It's gonna be like the U.S. It's gonna be like the U.S. Assassin box, right? Yeah,
Yep.
look at that.
It is right now. The Babe box that has Clint's artwork on the front, the logos on the spine, magnetic.
That's awesome.
Closing, and it'll have all 3 covers to book 1, both covers to book 2, a sketch from Clint, a sketch from me, trading cards, mini prints. We just added the Sea Dog pop socket to it for your cell phone, so it's definitely a great deal. And yeah, I've had people say they're only backing my campaigns now if I do collector boxes. So yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, let's just catch up with the chat. Leroy says, I bet it has a dog. Yeah, of course it does. I'm going to give the tiers a closer look. Thank you, Splat Guts. Told you. Of course it has a dog, Leroy. Leroy, wait till I do the Sea Dog and Bazooka Dog team up. You're going to love it. I happen to like Bazooka Dog. Yeah, Bazooka Dog is my favorite character I think I've ever created.
That's a great character. Like, I need an action figure of U.S. Assassin with Bazooka Dog,
I have the Master Peter. That's a little too much information, Leroy. I'll be backing the next few days. Thanks so much. Holding Peter. Yeah. Oh, we got a special guest, Michael Bancroft. Where are the primetime glasses? Just for you, Bancroft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me take myself out of solo layout. F off, Bancroft. So yeah, please, if you haven't checked out Sea Dog and Codename Kill Switch yet, there's 7 days left, 1 week. Please support it. 23,000. All the backers get a Viking Wolf ash can, and I'm so excited about Viking Wolf. Just from the artwork alone, I think it's going to be one of my best books. I mean, I don't know. I feel that way kind of about all my projects. I just think they're all, all like some of the best stuff out there. I wish they all did Graveyard Shift numbers, but I feel like in quality, they're all equal to Graveyard Shift.
Yeah.
So, Marco, where can people find you at?
I am only on Facebook and Twitter because I hate social media. I was on Instagram for a while, but then I was like, F off Instagram. So on Facebook, you can find me under Marco Lopez, or if you type in at Travis Dearly, then my name will pop up. My profile will pop up. It's an old pen name I came up with when I was in my 20s and I wanted to be like Stephen King. And then you can find me on Twitter at Atomic Rex ENT being short for entertainment. And yeah, friend request me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, pledge for Blanco. Make us a success so we bring you more kick-ass comics and the type of books you want more out there in the industry.
Yeah, and I mean, if you like stuff like, if you're looking forward to Viking Wolf, definitely check out Blanco. Eddie wants that Viking Wolf Sea Dog Bazooka Dog X over. It's happening. It's happening in U.S. Assassin 4. So definitely be on the lookout for it. Bancroft says he can't take the moral compass seriously without his trademark glasses. Yeah, gotta give the people what they want. Leroy's excited for Viking Wolf.
Yeah. Me too. That Viking Wolf looks so damn good.
And Splat Guts is telling Bancroft to go back Blanco. Go do it, Bancroft.
Thank you, Splat Guts. Yeah, Bancroft, listen to him. You'll love it.
So, Sean, where can people find you at? And do you have any upcoming art and stuff shows this week?
Yeah, tomorrow we have Joe Catapano. That's his last name. Star Circuit. That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. And on Thursday, we'll have Isaac Bell, 9 p.m. Eastern as well. And after that, we'll be back sometime next week because we're going to take the weekend off. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And where can they find you at on social media?
Sean Aaron across the board, and stuff on YouTube. If you can like, share, even if you don't like us, share because somebody will with taste. That's pretty much it.
Bancroft is a weeb and only backs hentai.
Damn.
You like
he
what
called
you
you
like.
out, Bancroft.
So you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Coney Waves. Make sure you subscribe to Primetime Poulton. Hit the notifications, and I'll see you real soon for some La Pod Gods talking some wrestling talk. I know Leroy's looking forward to that. Anyway, guys, we'll catch you later. Go back Blanco.
Yes, please.
You won't regret it. It's Moral Compass approved.